We feel excited, exhilarated, ready to go?
Yes.
All right, we're going to start the next panel. I'm so sorry it's me again. This panel is traditional versus modern horror. And we have another lovely group of panelists who are going to stay so focused on the chat.
Are you sure it's traditional
Versus? Are we fighting?
Well, it's not really a fight. It's more of the differences.
Got it. I understand.
Like discussing
Discussion. I'm sorry.
It can be whatever we want it to be. We can pivot entirely.
You're the moderator.
I'm really winging it. Okay, yeah, so this is going to be a fight, and we're going to throw down, and you have to pick a team, and then we're just going to throw hands. Or we're going to chat about the similarities and differences. I have a whole plan. Please, all right. Intros. No, what? The game's already gone. The game's gone. This is going to be a mess from here on out. Okay, intros. If y'all want to do a little self-intro for me, please and thanks.
I will start. I'm B. Michael. I write splatterpunk and extreme horror. I write an ongoing web novel called New Fag Runs the Gauntlet. And it's, about gross stuff on the internet. And I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I hear that's important to say.
Sorry, I did say I didn't need one. It's true. I don't really need one. Very loud. Hello, everyone. My name is Victoria Dalpe. I write both short and long fiction. I have a trilogy going right now that's kind of a dark fantasy horror series. I'm also a painter, and I really like writing in a lot of different horror subgenres. So, I write gothic stuff, I write contemporary stuff, mythos stuff, body horror stuff, historical stuff. So I kind of like playing within horror as an umbrella, all over it. So I think I'm ready to be traditional versus contemporary. I think I'm ready for both camps. So I think I can do it.
Hi, my name is Brandon Perras Sanchez. I'm a local horror filmmaker and horror author. The stuff I write ranges from mostly splatterpunk and dark fantasy. I'll write some campy stuff sometimes too, but it's mostly dark fantasy, dark horror, or horror fantasy. The films that we make range from like drag queen slashers and folk horror to the one we're working on now, which is a local project that involves the mafia, a Lovecraftian monster, and a noise rock band. It's called Queen of the Rats, but we're working on that right now. But.
I'm Gage Greenwood. We're saying where we're from. Is that what you said? I'm from Charlestown, Rhode Island. I've written 7 novels, lots of short stories. I, like Victoria, don't like to stay in a lane. Sometimes I don't even like to stay in horror. Sometimes I do dark fantasy. I write all over the place. I'm neither traditional nor contemporary, so.
I'm never titling a panel in my notes ever again because I had it so wrong. Or we can just fight. I don't know. It's tempting.
Seems scrappy. I think we'll do okay. I can turn my reins.
Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. So I put so much effort into this as the girly pop who does not write horror. So forgive me for reading from my script here, but in an article, getting official, from 2012 by Sean Hudson, he wrote that he's been sort of, quote, writing horror for 30 years and still has no clue what the hell the genre is. So as someone who's been writing horror for 30 years less than that, I'm wondering, do you feel that you have a grasp on the genre, and or is it even possible to have a grasp with how constantly it's just...
Actually, I kind of want to jump in on that. I think part of the issue with horror as a genre versus a lot of other genres in fiction is that horror isn't a genre. It's actually more of a vibe, if you will. So horror can show up in just about any scenario, any time, any type of story. And, even like a nonfiction historical book will have a lot of, and especially if you're reading about, Auschwitz or something like that, there's a lot of horror just in life. And so I think that horror as a genre is tricky because it defies genre. Horror can be happening in space. It can be happening in the Old West. It isn't itself a convention. It can appear in all other genres. So it is slipperier than that. And I think a lot of times people overly define horror in a very specific way. So they'll think of like slasher movies or something. And like I find that this is my long answer, and then I'm wrapping it up. But I think a lot of times when you tell people, and we probably all experienced that, and they're like, "Oh, what do you write?" And you're like, "Horror," and their face is like, "Oh, okay." And it's like, well, sometimes it is like chainsaw stuff, but like sometimes it's not. Like it's just way broader than that. And I think people have an idea of it, and it's just a lot more complex.
So now that I've offended all of the authors on the panel, does anyone else have input?
This one.
I think it's hard to define too because it's so rooted in fear, and that's a subjective conversation to have. I'm terrified of carbon monoxide poisoning, which isn't necessarily the best book. So it's a difficult thing to do, and I think, like Victoria said, it's really based on vibes because, is Jurassic Park a horror? Is a psychological thriller a horror? And it's totally based on, in my opinion, on how it's presented.
I concur. Just to kind of back up what everyone else is saying, I think compared to other genre fiction, a lot of genre fiction has kind of more or less a formula to follow. That's a huge generalization, but just for the sake of generalizing, like romance is like you can kind of, tell the beginning, middle, and end of like romance, as opposed to something like horror is like, all four of us on this panel write drastically different things, and some of it can be considered horror to some people, some of it is not scary at all to other people. I think the internet is terrifying, and some people are like, I don't know why you would write about that. I can't even conceptualize why it would be scary at all. Also because we experience different internets, just like we experience different outdoors, we experience different, everything. So yeah, super subjective. I love the idea of it being a vibe more than a genre.
Valley Girl way to say it, but I was like, it's like vibes.
It's just like vibes.
So new panel title, horror, the vibe. There we go. All right. Unfortunately, now that you've totally pivoted everything for me, my questions don't apply anymore.
No, I want to hear what you
I'm really giving you all a hard time. I'm totally kidding.
Back on track.
I'm gonna ask the question, and then you can educate me as someone who wrote terrible questions. So building more on the definitions per se of horror, a quick search will tell you that generational trauma and existential dread and things like that are more of the modern horror, right? And then the traditional horror is less of those and more of day-to-day, like the internet, things like that. So as authors who have told me that there's no such thing as modern versus traditional, do you agree with those definitions that are apparently floating out on the internet and are completely incorrect?
Yeah, I think traditional horror is modern horror. I think just it's whatever's in the limelight right now. So like if you dig deep, you're still gonna find slashers and zombie movies and vampire films, like, and in the micro budget world, indie world. But I think like whatever's in the theaters is what they're gonna push as like, this is what's happening in horror right now. Like I'm so tired of those articles. It's like, it's 2025 is the year for horror. It's like, no, horror's like never gone away. It's always been thriving. But yeah, I think I don't see much difference between traditional and modern. I know everyone tries to do like the whole like elevated horror thing, but like you can find films from the 50s, 60s, and 70s that also tackle these similar topics. So it's nothing new, but it's cool to see like there are evolutions to these topics and things that are happening, especially like as technology is progressing. But yeah, it's they're evolving in that way, but it's still the axis of all of it is traditional. But
you go back to like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Like go back. These things, we are all like a fear of death, a fear of the unknown, the entire foundation of Gothic horror is usually ancestral secrets, family lines dying out, generational trauma, like would be that like entire foundation of that subgenre. So I think these are always just getting repackaged, and I think there's like, because horror is having a moment right now, there's a little bit, I don't know, it's going to sound really snobby, but we're all friends here. There's like a lack of sophistication in the way that we talk about horror in general, and I think even the way horror fans talk about horror, because they think of it like in a very tribal way. But I mean, we've been working through horror issues, you know, just as long as humans have been telling stories by fire. It's been like, don't go over there, someone's going to eat you, or this is why bad things happen, or this is why we have ghosts in our blood, or whatever. It has always been like, we're trying to solve and make the world make sense, and horror is so much as exploring how things don't make sense, and you often don't get answers, and how we have to just deal with that, or not deal with it and, you know, die horribly or go insane or whatever. But I mean, that's, I think, always been the subject matter, and it always has been. So I don't think there is like an old versus new in that way. I think everyone's just approaching the question from different angles, and always have been, I guess. I don't know.
I was not going to mention this, but to keep offending the genre as I'm doing so well today, I stumbled upon an article where someone wrote that he felt that horror was dead. And I was like, oh, that could be a comment to make on the panel. So while I'm on the trend, listen. No, well, that's why I didn't include it. I didn't think it was very reputable, but I mentioned no. So I mentioned that to keep on the trend here. I think my next question is much better, based on how this is going. So Thomas Harris in The Silence of the Lambs. Yeah,
Thriller.
right? Okay.
Thriller, by the way, guys.
No! Do I know nothing?
It's marketed as a thriller. They emphatically say it's not. It's like a joke of what is horror.
I'm so upset. And you know what? I'm going to make it about me for a minute. I was prepping so heavily. I'm like, I'm not really in the genre. Like, I market books, but I don't, like, write horror. I'm not, like, necessarily a huge reader of it per se. I'm so sorry. But I'm talking to a friend of mine who's an author, and I'm like, is this going to go horribly? Because I'm really not, like, in it. And she's like, no, you're doing your research. You're doing so well. And I was like, yeah, I am doing so well.
Well, I think what you're doing is proving the point of all of these things are incredibly difficult to put one definition to. And I think that's just pushing the thesis of the panel forward. So I think you're doing an amazing job.
You can't beat yourself up.
Well, I'm going to go back to talking about a thriller now.
So just, I'm sure a lot of you guys know this. So we're all friends. The funny part, I was joking about the thriller thing because it's absurd. I mean, this is all serial killers wearing each other's faces, making skin dresses, doing other stuff with bodies and teeth and whatever. And it's, it's genuinely horrific. No, and I mean, and he looks amazing. I mean, Q Lazarus, man, I love that song. Yeah. It's on every mix I put it. So, point being, it was marketed as a thriller because horror has, a stank on it, if you will, and it's not considered commercially viable in a mainstream. And this is also what elevated horror is. Once something moves past a certain sphere, they start calling it a thriller or elevated horror or something like that to get that kind of slasher scumbag stink off of it to make it more attractive to a larger audience. So a lot of these books I would say are straight up horror, but they are marketed different and there's like a different classification because a lot of people won't admit to being horror readers. And then horror readers tend to be horror readers, so they are super admitting it and like screaming it. So it's like a different... So that was my joke, is like that book always gets classified as that, and it's definitely like Thomas Harris was writing horror. It's like silly that that's not considered horror. Yeah.
Okay, great. So I was right.
So you're right.
All right. My research isn't totally terrible. No, listen, I'm here for it. It's fine. All right, so it's a good question then. Ready? In 2019, my research paper, he stated in an interview, "I don't think I've ever made up anything." And we have to remember that this is the creator of Hannibal. So my question for you here is, I mean, really for any genre, but for the sake of this event, do you feel that anything you write about is made up? Or do you feel that the horrors that you're writing about are sourcing from genuine, I mean, the internet's real, right? So I'm curious because for him to say that is like, oh, Hannibal's real, great. It's so exciting for me. So the other things we're writing about, are those stemming from real fears, like you mentioned, Gage, or what are the vibes?
Yeah, I think everything, I guess I don't want to speak for every author, but with me, everything starts at a real level and then goes from there. Like I mentioned, my fear of carbon monoxide poisoning wouldn't make a great novel, but I did write a short story it's called The Air We Breathe, about that very fear. And I've written books that are slashers that are about my time being homeless, because I thought, hey, that's a good premise, you have nowhere to run. So everything starts at this level of, usually it's me trying to ask myself a question, whether about my own mental illnesses or something that happened in my life, where I want to explore it more and answer questions for myself that I think other people would relate to. And then from there, I add supernatural elements or whatever else can horrify it.
Go off what he said too, and this is not necessarily true for everybody, but it's so much easier to write what you know. So I think a lot of authors will, like you said, you'll kind of like Trojan horse in these real life events or issues that are important to you, but under the guise of something maybe supernatural or fanciful. So yeah, I know.
I definitely, you need to start somewhere. I think in a lot of cases, it's very helpful to write from what you know. In my case, I'm not scared of supernatural things. That was never a thing that got to me as much as when I was 8 years old and played Scary Maze game for the first time and was like, this shit's scary. And so the things that scare me are things that are real and more tangible. The internet's super accessible, and then from there, the more online I was, the more I was exposed to absolutely horrific things on 4chan, and that shit scares me. Is the ways in which people can kind of leave their humanity at the door, especially with anonymity on the internet. When you can't be traced back to something, people do and say the most horrific things ever, and that is so scary to me, is the wherewithal that people have in those instances. So that's been my whole life on the internet, so that's definitely what I pull from.
I wonder too about that quote. It's probably tough because he did a lot of methodical research about serial killer behavior and thought process, and so much of it was about the psychology of kind of aberrant mental behaviors and patterns stuff. So I wonder if that's what he meant. But yeah, I think most of us can summon and try to find what frightens us, or our feeling of being afraid, or to kind of build in that tension to create that expectation. But I always try to be careful about lived experience and authenticity, because we're in a weird era for that right now, where there's a lot of idea that if you haven't experienced it, you can't write about it, and there's some trickiness about what is fiction and what can you tell stories about and who can you tell stories about. And so I think there's always going to be something a little tricky in that, because somewhere in there you're going to have to start making something up. Otherwise, this is just a memoir, or there's certain limitations. There's a film movement called the Dogma 95 movement. Michael Haneke was part of it and stuff. And it was a really pretentious but interesting experiment where you're making movies without having any extra sound, or how minimal can it be and still be a movie. And so that it's in that same idea of how minimal can you tell a story that's still. So I think, I don't know, because obviously that it wasn't based on truth, so I'd be curious what he meant by that. But I do think we all kind of are bringing our own fears and our own anger and kind of more complicated feelings, especially because it's horror. You can get into some weirder spaces or darker spaces, and like I'm sure we're all indulging, but there's also a bad reputation that like all horror writers or people who consume it are like deviant, like pervert weirdos. So also, no offense to the deviant pervert weirdos who are here. We need you and we love you and we appreciate you. But also, sorry. Yes.
Gage is like, hey.
Yeah, but also, like, you can enjoy these things and enjoy consuming them and not also have anything wrong with you. So I think we're always in an interesting genre umbrella because you're like, this is for the freaks, but also it's okay and don't be scared. Like, it's not true. Like, I'm not going to kill you. So it's, it's tricky.
I keep seeing you pick up the mic. I know you have something to add here.
Yeah, there was like there was like 10 things I wanted. So when my kiddo went to school in kindergarten, I didn't want to tell anyone that I was a horror author because I thought like that the other parents are going to be like, yeah. And then my son's teacher found out and ordered a bunch of my books. And then they started like passing around the school, and it turns out like they all are a very big fan of mine. So, so it's like all these like soccer moms who like really love horror just hiding out at this school. And the other thing I wanted to add, you were talking about just like what we have to be careful about today. And I was pitching to my manager a novel idea, and it was in a post-apocalyptic setting, and he was like, I wouldn't right now. Because everyone is really worried about that. So he's like, so sit on that for a year or two.
It's like when everyone was writing like COVID plague books, and I was, oh my gosh. Hey, you know what? I have no interest in reading at all.
All right. I have two things I want to pivot into, but they're connected. So I feel for the sake of context, you said that you would be interested in hearing more about that quote, which I'm not going to give you right which I won't go into right now. But I will say, yes, there's an entire interview that quote comes from. But as a by-day marketer, I said, that's a good hook, and I'm going to leave it right there. So there's much more to go with his quote, of course. But moving into now what Gage was just talking about with parents and maybe hiding a little bit, almost like we were talking about the masks the other day, other panel, not relevant.
We did a panel last weekend, so
we did another panel last weekend. Yeah, it's going really well for me. So what I want to talk about now is, obviously Gage had access to my notes somehow, because my next question is, have you noticed any trends in how either A, the horror genre has been perceived and or represented, or B, how horror authors are perceived and represented? And you can tie that into if there's ever been a point where you didn't maybe want to mention, like you said, that you're a horror writer based on, circumstances, whatever the case. Take it from there.
I blame publishers for that because if you go on Book Talk, you will find a lot of authors who write some of the like most insane horror, like really rough stuff, and they sell a lot of books because they blew up on Book Talk, and those books won't get touched by a publisher, even though they make more money than that publisher makes on any other book, and it's that fear of like showing it. And I think what we see is that horror sells when horror is put in front of people, but publishers hide it. And even if you look at the top 100 books in horror in the traditionally published sphere, they mask it. They mask the covers. They mask the titles. They not always. I'm not trying to bash publishers here, but they do. They put it as thriller, like you were saying. They do all things to disguise it, but it sells when it's put in front of people. So. And I think they're starting to get on that now. A lot of my indie horror friends have been getting contacted by big publishers because they're starting to see the marketability of it. So hopefully that turns around, but we'll see.
I do think we are in kind of an amazing age of like horror literature in particular. Just in the past year, I only started writing in the last year. That's not true, but I only started like publishing my work in the last year. I'm entirely self-published, so like everything I do is just me. And I'm of the opposite of what publishers tend to like err on the side of caution. I have just always been an obnoxious person, and so I can be obnoxious and nice. No, but I think it's like really important as like a transsexual queer person in this world, in this day and age, to be like super loud about that. And so that's how I approach my writing is like, I'm gonna spell out for you exactly what you're gonna get with this book, which is why I put a slur in the title of my book. Because it's like, if you don't like that, you're probably not gonna like the rest of what's inside here. Right, exactly, it's transparency. But we are in like an amazing, like kind of like turnaround of horror literature. Book talk, as much as people love to like roll their eyes at like the concept of things like that, is like amazing for indie authors. And just like the fact that like, you know, splatterpunk writers like Eric LaRocca are like people like know about these people now and like are getting published to like really big publishers is huge and amazing. And so I think we're like moving into kind of an era of not hiding as much. I, again, don't do anything to hide what it is I do. Everyone at work knows what I do. The name on my book is my legal name. And part of that is like, I do, you know, publish all of my stuff being like, this is weird and perverted and disgusting, because I know that like that's gonna reach the people who I like want to reach, you know, perverts. Yeah, I don't know if I answered the question, or I answered something. I spoke into a microphone for 5 minutes.
All right. I want to connect my two panels because I'm so good at connecting things and moderating panels. I'm writing. I'm just typing away here. I did a panel right before this one with Liz Sauco, and I probably just said her last name wrong, but I hope she's listening. And now I'm going to offend her too and say that she mentioned that book talk is mostly romantasy right now. And now we're talking about how there's such a huge presence for horror writers and their books. So I really think, marketing hats on here, I really think it depends on what the content is that you're consuming. And if you go on there looking for horror authors or you go on there looking for romantasy, you're going to find it. There's plenty of all of it. So
one of the things that those two have in common is they're both considered trash fiction to the general and also on like in the higher ups of like a big five, and then they get rolled into it once they sell a certain amount, then a bigger publisher might. No, that's like women's fiction in this, like, again, it's like fiction for perverts also. Like, that's also a lot of romantasy is pretty hardcore stuff. Like, no, so it's also, there's like a deviant fan and not serious or real literature component to both of those, which I also think is part of why they are in that area doing actually quite well. But it's like a by fans for fans, like within those communities, because they aren't taken seriously outside of those communities. And a lot of women's fiction in general and like romance in general are often looped into it, even though women are the overwhelming buyer of books, and the only reason any kind of book store stays in business is for women readers, frankly, and they are overwhelmingly the majority. And they're also almost the majority of the horror buyers too. So I mean, women are readers, women buy books, so, but they're not taken seriously, and they don't tend to get those big five deals. They don't tend to get paid as much, and still. So, but I would say it's because those are not genres that are considered real, or like, not real, I mean obviously they're real, but literature, or as far from it as, yeah. So I think that's the part that those have in common.
got it. Okay. All right. See, you learn something every day.
I think another thing too, that the playing field for any medium of art, whether it's like film or music or literature, is gate-kept. It's gate-kept by publishers, gate-kept by distributors. And I think like people look for that name recognition from these, the distributors and publishers and whatnot, record labels. So things like TikTok are super important for indie artists. Every time TikTok to me is a hellscape. It's like a circle of hell they don't talk about. Every time I fucking hate it. But every time I make a TikTok, I sell books, and it's a really great community. Like I've made a lot of friends on there, and I'm so thankful that it exists, because like without it, like it's really hard to get your stuff out there. It's like near impossible. You have to like hustle as like a self-published author to do this, and without TikTok, it's really difficult. I mean, it's the meta world, you have to, it's like pay to play. So it's like, and it's bullshit. If you pay money, like maybe 5 people in like Indonesia see your post, and that's it. Like it's just stupid. So yeah, I think it's super crucial for people like us to have these options. And again, the community has been very welcoming and friendly of all sorts of horror, from like super extreme to, like you said, like the romantasy kind of fantasy stuff. So yeah, that's kind of where it's at. Oh, sorry, I don't know what's happening.
This doesn't really have to do with anything, but I just want to say it while I have a chance to say it. TikTok and Book Talk and Instagram and all those places where books are, the conversation is deep, is getting destroyed by billionaire tech bro assholes who are trying to ruin it for us. So don't support them.
So new panel. My question would be what other avenues are we taking that are even close to reach? And I'm with you, 100. This is devil's advocate here for the marketing side. What other avenues are we exploring as authors or someone marketing books, not writing them because I don't know how to write? What are the other options? Like, what would your go-to be? What, you know what I mean?
OnlyFans.
Yeah, I just like open books with my toes. Like
I've thought about doing that as bookstore promo.
I'll try to do some sort of a book fetish.
Is it like a thing?
It could
Nothing
be.
I come up with is original.
I came up with a new business idea. But I think the book fair, I think doing things like this, getting face to face, especially with people who come to events like this often are readers, they're interested, they like to meet the writers who write the books they like to read. And those people are absolutely gold, because if they read something they like of yours, they're gonna tell, like, it's that word of mouth of like 1 good review tells 10 good, it's that whole thing. And so, I mean, it sounds hokey, but I do think like hand selling face to face is, I mean, you're not going to sell hundreds of books, but you're going to sell a couple, and those could turn into something, or you might get like a loyal reader that follows what you do from that point on. And I think because this is such a solitary position a lot of times we're in, and it's, I don't know, like the critic cartoon is like, buy my book, buy my book, and you're doing that so often, it feels really gross. So it's hard to find like organic ways to be trying to sell books that doesn't feel like you're always trying to sell books, and it's tricky. I mean, and I don't think anyone knows, from the big publishers to the little guy down here, I don't think anyone knows how to do it. Like, there is no exact science to how this works.
Yeah, someone was talking to me once about that, and they were saying, I never know when I should promote, and I said, it's always too much and it's never enough. There's just no answer to that. I mean, I'll pitch to the guy delivering pizzas to my door.
Right. They can just keep that stinking desperation up.
No, I'm desperate. No, yeah, that's definitely. It's not so much how often, I think, it's just how you do it. There's a lot of, you'll go online and you'll just see people like, please buy my book, and that's just never going to sell your book. Coca-Cola, they get together at the beginning of the year and they're like, we're going to spend $1 billion in ads this year, and nobody says, but what if it's too much? But they're never going to make an ad that says, please buy Coca-Cola. They're going to tell you why Coca-Cola is good for you. So we have to find out how to do. Like if you're, I'm not good at TikTok, I'm terrible at it. So I find people who are good at TikTok and I ask them if they want to read my book, and then they do the promoting for me if they like it.
There really is no rhyme or reason. I did this stupid, corny promo for the White Bishop, where like I'm dressed like a doctor talking about the symptoms of scurvy, and it kind of goes like wacky at the end. It has over 1 million views, and did I sell 1 million books? No. And like it's an ad for the book, and like it's just getting shared over and over again. Like, this is funny, and it's like, but I have my books and shit linked in there. But all my other videos that I put a lot of time into, make nice, they get like 400 views. It's no rhyme or reason to it. I wish there was like something to follow, to, like a guide. Like what is? It just makes no sense.
But have
It's-
you ever watched a video and then gone and clicked on the book?
I'll go not through TikTok. I'll go to the websites. I still understand the buy through TikTok thing, and I think the artists it takes a percentage away from what they get. So I'll go to their actual websites if I can.
Yeah, and that's just like the challenge of that, because it isn't like, they would still need to be motivated enough to move through those steps, and that is a lot harder to.
Joshua's gonna yell at you for not using the mic.
I want to second book fairs. I didn't have a career really until the first and only other book fair that I did. Shout out New York City Indie Horror Book Fair. That was the first time I sold anything in print. I sold out on the first day that I started selling. And I got a lot more local readers, which is very cool. I had a following of some sort on Tumblr.com. Anyone? That's still happening? Yeah, believe it or not, there are about 20 of us left on that website. And we're all here. And but other than that, super hard. I never wanted to show my own shit. I really was I publish my stuff for free on the internet. I was I don't want to make money off of this because it feels grody. But there comes a point where you kind of have to, and I was if I want to bring this to print, I have to raise money somehow and stuff like that. But doing it in person is incredible and will always top trying to advertise it over. I hate Instagram. I won't touch TikTok. And especially with all the AI bullshit, it's really, really hard with something that's so visual as my work, as other people's work. It's really hard to convince people that I'm doing this all myself. This is we're sitting at home writing this, we're formatting all of this ourselves. It's tough. So being able to come in person to events like this is I'm not just saying that because I'm here and I want to do more of this. It's this shit rocks, and I love being able to meet people in person. So keep going to these things.
Okay, we have 6 minutes. Do we have any questions from the crowd here? And I'll repeat it into the mic, promise.
Don't be scared. We're all friends, remember?
We established that from the beginning. Yeah. Okay, fine.
To fight people.
So this is the part of the panel where we fight. So we're taking bets. Everything's fine. Does anyone have any last-minute tidbits they want to sprinkle in?
Well, AI was mentioned, so I feel like that's another good opportunity to say that billionaire tech bros are trying to destroy the arts and don't let them.
Yeah. And I guess we all have tables, right?
Yep.
There are tables
We all
that
have
need
tables.
your eyes on them.
So, come say hello. And you
Yeah.
can ask us your questions there privately if you'd like.
Ask what side of horror they're on, because we've established that there are two.
Yes, question?
I'm across from the parking lot. I'm in a dumpster. No, see the pink over there? That's where I'm sitting with Laura over there. We're sharing a table. Come over with lots of money.
Well, then I think we'll call it a wrap here. All right. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Sure, yeah, for offending everyone. That was great. Thank you for
Thank you,
sitting
guys.
and listening to us yap.